Today is Sunday, June 13th, 2021, and we are at the Thomas Warne Museum. Today we are speaking with Joseph Koopman and Karen Koopman for our oral history collection. Jeff Kagan, who is the recording secretary of the Madison-Old Bridge Township Historical Society, will film today's proceedings. I am Phil McGovern, the corresponding secretary of the Historical Society. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
What are your full names and where do you live?
Karen Koopman. I live on 25 Spring Hill Road, and my address is Madeline, but I live in Old Bridge.
Joseph C. Koopman, live in Madawan, mailing address, but in Cheesequake,
That's right.
Oak Bridge.
Where were you born and when?
I was born in Red Bank, in a hospital in Red Bank. I was immediately taken to Old Bridge. And I was born December 25th, 1945.
I was born December 13th, 1945. And so I'm a little older than her.
And you were born in New York City.
And I was born in New York City.
What part?
The east side.
Oh, the better part of town.
Yeah, better part of town. And East 82nd Street. We moved from New York to Woodbridge in 1953. We bought an old chicken farm. We lived on a chicken farm till 1964. In October 14th, 1964, we moved to Old Bridge. And then I was there setting up everything, bringing the furniture in and stuff like this. And about 2 days later, I hear of somebody shooting in the back. So I got a little bit of interest in it, and I was like, I wonder what that is. I walked back there, and it's a girl, long hair, picking a gun up, shooting at records. She was shooting at old 33 mil thing records, the big ones. So I waited until she had to reload, walked up behind her, and kind of startled her. And I said to him, how you doing? I said, we moved. She said, yeah, I know you moved back then. I said, it's a shame you're not hitting the records. She says to me, she'd give me one of these looks like, and I said, what? She said, I wasn't shooting the records. I'm shooting through the hole. I was like, oh. She said, I'll prove it to you. She made 2 ears and a nose, Mickey Mouse, on the record. So I said to her, I said, do you shoot a pistol? So she said, yes, I do. So I ran home, got my pistol, and I come out, and it was a 22 9-shot. And I loaded it, and I tried shooting the little cartridges that you throw on the ground. And I shot at it, and I missed it, shot it, hit it, missed it. So I had said to her, I reloaded it, and I said to her, can you shoot a pistol? She said, oh yeah, I can shoot a pistol. She never even put it up to her eyes. She was shooting off the hip, hitting the target. I was like, I'm gonna marry this girl.
That was Karen?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's how we met.
Wow.
And
Wow.
She lived next door. And we started hanging out together and having fun together and enjoyed life. And we had a good time.
Excellent. You didn't bring your gun with you, right?
No.
I just got it on.
Yeah, no. I'm not over there. And I also told you how to get to the stock car races from there.
Correct. We went to the Old Bridge Speedway.
No, we didn't.
No.
We went to Wall Stadium.
Wall Stadium. I'm sorry.
You gotta remember.
This was in 1964, thereabouts, you say?
No, this was about 1960, I think.
No, I only moved there in 64.
Oh, that's right. Okay. All right.
In 64, so it was just before the track closed, actually.
Yeah.
And there's another interesting story. I don't know if you want to hear it.
Sure.
About in 1969, the track was closed. Old Bridge Speedway was closed. I went down and I bought a 1969 Mach 1 Mustang for Valentine's Day, red. So we come home with it, and she was happy with it and all that stuff. But we drove for about a couple hundred miles, and finally I said, come on, let's go down to the racetrack and we'll go around the track a few laps. So I go and I take her around the track about 4 or 5 times. You know, not fast, and it's going crazy. She says, I want to drive. I said, okay. So she gets in her car, she takes off, and I see the brake lights come on in the turns. See people going around. She's going around, and she's going around. The lights started blinking a little bit, and then they stopped a little bit, and then all of a sudden I see smoke come over the back of the tires. I said, it's time to stop. She's going to hit the wall. And
So the stock car drivers slide into the turns.
yeah, she was a natural to it. She loved going around the track, racing.
Now, in Manhattan, because I had relatives over on the east side of the Dolans, but when you growing up there, what did you think of it? I mean, did you like it or?
Well, I had good experiences and I had some bad experiences. I mean, I had, my father was a cabinet maker and he worked for a lot of people. He actually worked for a lot of gangsters. He did a lot of work for the woodworking and stuff and did a lot of work for them. And he always had a 45 in his back, on his back pocket, behind his.
Did Karen know your father?
No, she might. She might have.
He also did work for the big ship Onassis in that
Onassis.
stuff.
He did all the French murals and stuff mural in the ship. He was, a real good craftsman on woodworking. And then one bad experience is I went down to get a dog, pet a dog, and the dog come up and ripped my lip open, took my tooth out, took the side of my face out a little bit.
Where was that? You remember?
That was in Manhattan. That was East 82nd Street, in front of my father's cabinet shop.
Wow.
I bent down to pet the dog, and as I bent down, he jumped up and grabbed my face. And of course, a kid, you pull back. I was just 7.5, 8 years old. And so my father got all the information off the guy, and he says, they'll probably be contacting you. But the fella that had the dog, he gave the wrong information to my father. And they went looking for the dog to check to make sure it didn't have rabies. Couldn't find the dog. So probably, I think it was about a week. It's time, you have to go for the rabies shots no matter what. And that's when you got a needle into your belly button. And, it was a long needle and it was painful every other day. I got 17 of them. So my father, we raised shepherds for military and the army. And he was a racing pigeons. He raced homing pigeons also. And he was walking the two of our dogs in Central Park and he spotted the guy with the dog. He walked up behind him, took the 45 out of his back pocket, put it behind his ear and says, "You're coming with me to the police headquarters." The dog was clean, thank God, okay? So that I didn't get all the shots, but it was painful. That was some bad parts of New York City.
See, I lived a dull life compared to him. All I did was pick strawberries. And
What prompted the move? Then I'll ask Karen some questions.
My father saw that it wasn't a good environment to bring up my brother and me, okay? He's seen that the way he was brought up, back in the day, when he was very, very young, he got scarlet fever, some other temperature thing, and he lost every hair follicle on his body. He had no hair in his ears, his head, nothing in his legs, his arm. So him growing up, he was a young kid, growing up in New York City like that, he was always picked on for that. So he was a tough guy. A couple of stories I heard about him, he went to the store to get his mother milk, and he was walking back and the guy come over and took his hat off and started mocking on him. He took the bottle and hit him across the head and split the guy's head open. He was a kid. But he was a tough guy, I gotta say. Never raised his hand to me.
he had a soft spot, though, always, on some things.
What prompted the move to Jersey? Just to get out of the environment, you're saying?
Just to get out of the environment.
Okay.
He saw that it wasn't good for, two young boys to grow up in New York City, which I agreed with him because he had 4 friends. One became a priest. One got killed in a shooting. The other one got in a car accident, got killed, and the other guy went to jail. So there was, 4 of us that, and I made it out, because of my father.
Now, why this area as opposed to somewhere up north or?
Well, we moved to Woodbridge first. It was affordable. It was an old chicken farm, needed a lot of cleaning, a lot of work. My father was a craftsman, a cabinet maker and stuff like that, so he could work on the house and stuff like that. So we started fixing the house up.
Did you rent it? You owned it or rented it?
We owned it. He bought the property, an acre and a half property. And it was right on St. George Avenue, Woodbridge. Actually, the movie theater was right across the street from us.
Drive-in.
Yeah, what was it called? I can't remember.
Walter Reed, I think.
Walter Reed
Drive-in
Theater. And it was, I mean, it was, on a Friday night, cars going in and out, all that stuff. It was not the nicest place to live, but it was home, And we had some good years there, really good years.
And then you came here.
Then in 1962, my father made an offer on the property because there was a housing development going around. There was apartments being built around it, and we were an acre and a half right in the center of this thing. And they wanted us out. They wanted that out of there as soon as they could get us out. So they paid top dollar. My father had money now, so we come out here. We looked at houses all over. There was an old mink farm we went and looked at over there on Route 9. We wanted to go to this area. For some reason, my father liked this area, and my mother liked this area. And my uncle, my godfather, he lived in Avenel. And he made a move to Pennsylvania, but that's another story. But he found the place, the chicken farm, originally for my father, and then this one was found by a realtor, and we came down, and my father.
What street was it on?
St. George Avenue, Woodbridge.
No, I'm saying when you came here.
Spring Hill Road.
Right to Spring Hill.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Now, Karen, you were born here, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me
I'm
about.
dull compared to him.
No, you had the gun. Come on.
He was here.
Well, that's
Tell me about your family growing up and around here, what it was like. And...
I think it was lovely. It's sometimes I wish that my kids could have enjoyed it the exact same thing I had. We had a little church up on Cottrell Road. We could walk to that.
What church was that?
Our Savior's it was, and it's right on the hill on Cottrell. And we'd walk up on a Sunday evening. Sometimes they had services, and sometimes we'd walk on Sunday morning. And they'd have the Easter egg hunt in the field alongside and everything. It was really nice. And the socials and stuff like that. The Farrington, the farmer, every fall he had the migrant workers, and he told them, bring a good pair of clothes. They didn't know why. So come harvest home, all the ladies of the church fill big crocks like this one, maybe a little bigger, with whatever their specialty was. My mother made string beans. Another lady made cucumber salad. And we set it all up in the church basement, and also the handiwork, like crocheting and stuff like that. And Mr. Farrington, who would get the guys, tell them, dress up now, we're going. And he'd bring them up there. They were very respectful and polite, and they lined up, and they all went out of there with smiles on their faces. It was very nice. And he basically had the same migrants want to come back every year. So there was that, and of course I was related to 90% of the place. It was always family gatherings and everything. We had weddings over at my grandparents' farm on Route 9.
Where on 9?
What would it be related to, Joe?
Let's see, you look right across the street of Old Mill.
Yeah.
Okay, you go down to Shoemeister, right in that section.
It was like in the middle.
Shoemeister and thing, right across on Route 9. It's all being developed now.
They're getting ready to develop it, but it was fabulous. It was the old farmhouse. Every time I see the movie Deliverance, which there were no murders and bootlegging going on, but it made me think of the people, and we would be in the backyard, there'd be a wedding, there'd be the punch bowl set up in the little dining room, and it was a huge family. I mean, there was, I don't know how many parents, I think like 10 living at home at the time. And we would just have this get together there and hang out all day. And my uncles would take us out on the tractors sometimes, ride around the field or things like that. It was just so relaxed, and hanging out is about the only way you can describe it. And my one son, he says, I envy you. I wish I could give my kid that life that you had. I well, it wasn't that great all the time.
What did your folks do though, and what was your maiden name?
Seeger, Seger, like
Okay.
Bob Seger. No, we're not related. my mother became a homemaker. That was it. She had me late in life. She was 38 when she had me. My father was a DuPont worker.
I'm sorry?
My father worked at DuPont.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as did an awful lot of my relatives. But he worked at DuPont. And
That was in Sayreville, I believe.
yes,
correct?
yeah, Parlin, you would say.
Right.
So. And yeah, he worked there, and it was very interesting. Now it is to me. My kids think it's interesting. At the time, it was kind of dull to us. We had nothing to do. But you could ride bicycles up and down Spring Hill Road and not see a car for the whole day. And yeah, it was just so different. And we rode our bicycles to school. I mean, if it was a bad day, somebody gave us a ride. I can't find the picture. I have my entire class picture is first, second, third, and fourth grades, all on an 8x10.
Tell them where it was.
In the old Cheeseway School.
Cheesecake School, the
Yeah,
one where
Cheesecake.
the firehouse is.
Right.
Okay.
So we had Miss Reagan taught first, second, third, and fourth, and Mrs. Rafus taught the next group. And it was in the two school, and also Miss Rafus was also the school principal. And
Was it more than one grade in the class?
each teacher taught 4 grades. We had no kindergarten. If you remember. That was it, Mrs. Rafus. I can't remember if she was Rafus first or Campbell first. She got married while we were there, so we had a day off from school. And I don't know if you want to put this in there, but we would get lined up twice a day at lunchtime. You had to go to the outhouse. You didn't have a bathroom in the school. And then they did put one in, and that was a big deal. But then we got too many kids, so they rented part of the old firehouse. That's torn down now. We rented that. Well, there was no bathroom in there. So twice a day we marched across the schoolyard to go to the other school. But it was fun. We had a lot of fun. We had recess. We went out and threw snowballs at each other.
Tell them about Sonny bringing over the beach.
Oh, in the firehouse in the back, because they would have their bazaars and stuff, they opened up a back window, like a wooden awning. Well, Sonny Schulmeister, when Peaches were in, he'd come up with peaches for all of us and set them there. And the one teacher thought it was great. The other was, that Schulmeister interrupting classes again. But yeah, he'd bring peaches for us, and it was just so nice about it. And I tell my kids about it. Oh, we don't have that. Of course you don't. Things got built up.
It's changed.
Things got built up, and
How about when your grandfather passed away in Gook, Farrington,
oh,
at
yeah.
harvest time?
It was harvest time when my grandfather was very sick with the cancer.
This was your father's father?
No, my mother's father. My father's a city boy.
And your mom's maiden name was?
Down. Yeah. And her mother was a Schulmeister. So.
Famous names in town.
Yeah, it's it wasn't in this town that we mentioned the name Bound. Oh, Freehold. We stopped to buy strawberries. And I said, oh, this place reminds me of my grandfather's farm. Mom said, by the way, what's your grandfather's name? I said, well, he's passed, and then he's Bound. She goes, oh my God. I thought I was going to be in trouble. She said, oh my God, that name around here, that's a well-known name. I said, okay, so I bought my strawberries. But anyhow, my grandfather was very ill with cancer, and the harvest was in. So Good Farrington brought his men up, and they harvested it, and everything was taken care of. Anybody had any problem, like illness or anything like that, somebody always would help. They would always help. Certain times of the year, you'd see people lined up outside your door. Funny story is my father was a gunsmith, hobby gunsmith, very good at it. Well, just before hunting season, there'd be the line outside the door of guys wanting their guns worked on. They did bluing. It's like a controlled rust on the barrel of the gun, and my father was very good at it. My mother was not happy about that because he did it in the kitchen. But anyhow, he would blue the guns, and gun stocks, he would carve a gun stock for people if they wanted, custom gun stock. And he did all this fancy little intricate checkering, they call that, and then he'd hand rub them. But it was such an interesting, relaxed time. I mean, sometimes it got a little hectic at the time, but thinking back on it now, I'd love to go back to that. You know?
Tell them about Britt bringing the gun up and talking to you.
Oh, poor Britt Schulmeister, he brings the gun up. He says to my father, he says, I don't know, it's not shooting straight. So I said, maybe it's not the gun, Britt, maybe it's you. He says, go to bed, go to your room. No, but it was always somebody around like that, and I can go way back with really funny story is where our house is now, and I lived in the house next door with my parents, was an open field. When I was about 5 when we moved into that house. 12 o'clock at night, I hear beagles baying and guys talking. It was a raccoon family nest area, and that was the raccoon breeding area. And they all went raccoon hunting under my bedroom window. You would say, yeah, I think back on it, I laugh at it now, but to a 5-year-old kid, it was like, what the heck's going on? Yeah, but it was great. And then we just get together and go ice skating sometimes.
Where?
On the reservoir. That was when we were older. The reservoir up in
Behind the baseball field.
behind the baseball field.
You can't even see it now.
But we used to go. There was a pond in back of Clyde and Rachel's place too, on Control
The
Road.
baseball field on what street though?
Up on Schulmeister Road.
Schumeister on Route 9.
Yeah, but most of the time we also went in back of Bounds on Cottrell. That was an interesting pond. It was full of little islands of trees. And of course that was big for a poor skater like me. Oh, I gotta go to the island, I gotta sit down. But yeah, it was great. It was really great. And like I said, we'd all get together, gather up a group and walk to school and pick up. And also if you missed school, the kid was on your route, he'd bring your homework home for you. That's it. But yeah, it started with Walt German's house, and that's his wife on the picture I brought. And we'd start with Lee, and then they'd pick up the Trout kids, and then they'd pick up Arlene Jackson, and then they'd pick up me, and then we'd pick up the Holton kids. It was a pickup. It wasn't picked up with a bus. It was just us walking.
And get chased by the goose.
Yeah, that darn goose. There was a path also to go home through the back of the woods. People had a goose. That thing would hide in wait and come out just as you think you've made it. You hear the big squawk, and that thing would come running out at you. Well, I hit him with my book bag once. He didn't bother me at all. I didn't hurt him. I just taught him a lesson, and he didn't bother me much anymore after that.
I have a question. What was it like going to an outhouse in winter?
Frigid.
Cold.
That could not have been fun.
No, well, nobody stayed too long. It was do your job and get out of here. Yeah.
Now, did you have any siblings?
No, I'm only.
Okay. Now, did schooling now you lived in one house on Spring Hill and you lived in another house on
Right next door to each other.
Okay. Now, you went to school, same,
I went to Woodbridge.
Yeah, he moved in, he was about 18?
I was 18, yeah.
You were 18 when you moved in, yeah.
okay.
And then I went to Woodbridge High, Barron Avenue in Woodbridge. And I had dyslexic. I see things
Why is
backwards.
he dyslexic?
And I couldn't absorb anything.
And they had nobody specialized in teaching.
So when I went to the guidance counselor, they said, the guidance counselor wants to see you, and they said, you're wasting your time here. That's just what they said to me. I
Holy
said,
cow.
I'm talking 1963, 62, 60s. They knew nothing about that. So I said, okay, I'll do it, and just go get a job or something, So I not that I was resentful, but I was later in life that they should have offered vocational school for me. Because mechanically inclined, I love mechanics. I could look at a transmission and I'm taking it apart and putting it together before in my head. I had a guy with a 13-speed Mack transmission, could not figure out why it was blowing out the one cluster gear. So he asked me, Joe, could you come over and look at it? I said, okay. I went over and looked at it. I looked in the transmission because the whole cover comes off the top. I looked and I said, that gear is in backwards. And he goes, what? I said, that gear is in backwards. He said, that wouldn't cause a transport. I said, so what? I said, when he goes into the reverser, into high speed, the cluster gear is rolling in instead of rolling out. Oh. So I took the transmission apart right there on the bench, put it all back together, put the top on. I said, you guys can finish it up. I mean, that transmission weighs over about 1,500 pounds, so you can't lift it, just lift it and throw it in. So he said, all right, we'll put it back in. You sure it's going to work? I said, it'll work. Put it in, never had a problem. 13 speeds.
When did you know that you were good at mechanics?
Her,
Okay.
when I met her. she said to me, there's something, Don. She look at things, and
I said, you see everything backwards.
Oh.
And again, like he told you about how he could see things. And I read up on it, and I saw
she gave me a test. She gave me
I
a
said, you
test.
have dyslexia. And I had no training in any of this. On the upside, though, when my kids started school, I told the teacher, she's, all right, we'll have them tested. And thank God neither one of them has it.
Yeah.
But she said, I'm glad, you know, you knew it. And she said, how do you know? I said, because my husband's got it so darn bad, I have to read a book for towing, you know. But yeah, that was pretty good.
And I worked in John Deere. I worked for John Deere for 42 years.
Wow.
On heavy equipment.
Wow.
And I could look at a manual, read it 3 or 4 times. I went to a lot of technical schools and stuff like that. And I learned more from the instructor than I could reading it in the books, because I can't comprehend it.
Right.
You know, it doesn't sink in. And I'll come home with a book and I'll say to her, Karen, read this to me. She'd read it to me. I said, I got it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I didn't get it.
But you know, it's a hard thing to deal with. I mean, people that have it, and it's a hard thing. But in some ways, it's a good thing.
Yeah, but now they have more studies of it. Back when you were a kid, nobody even knew what that was. It was just, the kid can't read, you know, that's how it is. But
What fascinated you about mechanics? Because I can't plug the thing in the wall. I mean,
I could do it. I mean, when I was young, I took things apart. I would always take things apart and put them back together. They'd give me a toy, I'd take it apart to see how it worked and put it back together and make sure it worked again. I love to take radios apart. I'd like to take all kinds of stuff apart. I was very interested in taking apart. Another interesting story, I was 15 years old. I built an Oldsmobile engine. Oldsmobile 88. Had 3 carburetors on it, and I had nothing to put it in. So I wound up buying this 54 Ford. And I said, I'm going to put that motor in there. And I put it in the Ford. And thing ran like it was a bear. And I had it. My father was like, you know, he always encouraged me to do things and be busy, you know. And one day I was in the yard there. I was working on the car, and this guy pulls in, and he wanted to race me. I was 15 years old. So I said to him, I said, all right, I'll race you. How much you want to race for? He said, I'll race you for $100. And $100 in them days was good money. I said, yeah, I'll race you. I didn't have $100, but I knew I could beat him. So I'm 15 years old. I get in this car. I pull it out on the roadway on St. George Avenue. And I told him, as soon as the light changes, we go. He said, okay. Well, of course, I took off. I was like a bear. I took off. And all of a sudden, I look in my rearview mirror, there's a cop behind me.
I probably said, yeah.
He pulls me over. I'm like, oh boy. The other guy took off. He ran
I don't
away.
blame him.
So cop gets out, and the cop knew me because I pumped gas at the Amoco station.
whereabouts?
On St. George Avenue, right next to our house.
Gotcha.
And this guy, George Keller, and I knew most of the cops and stuff like that. He knew me, and he says to me, all right, Joe, turn the car around, drive it back to the yard. I said, okay. And now I'm shaking, I'm nervous. I pull back into the yard, I shut the car off. He walks over to me, he said to me, wait here. I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? They're gonna tow the car away or what? I didn't know what they were gonna do. About 3 minutes later, a black Mercury pulls in. I knew this guy, his name was Bumba, we called him Bumba. He was a police captain in Woodbridge. And he walked into the garage. I was sitting on my father's workbench, and he walked up to me. I could see it in his eyes. I went to jump off the workbench. I told my granddaughter this thing, and she went crazy. As I jumped off there, he backhanded me right across the face. I fell down to the ground. I went to get up, and he gave me another one right across the face. All right, you look like you're shocked about it, okay?
I was too.
So he says, okay, get up. So I get up on the bench. I got up on the bench. He says, look, he says, we don't want to lose you. That was bad what you did. I said, I know, Bumba. And he says to me, he says, I don't want to see that car out again without the motor out of it put the motor in the garage, put the car outside. He said, I don't want to see that car with a motor in it. I said, okay. Goes to walk out, he spins around, he looks at me and he points his finger at me. This is between me and you. I was like, okay. So he wasn't going to tell my mother, he wasn't going to tell my father. I was like, okay, that's good. My mother would have beat my ass. She was tough, she was a
That
tough
was so dull compared to him.
Now, you went to, after you graduated from Cheesequake, what school did you go to?
Well, we didn't have 7th and 8th, so I did go to Lawrence Harbor School.
Right.
And after Lawrence Harbor School, we didn't have the high school yet, so I went to Hoffman in South Amboy. And
Wow.
that was
How did you get
interesting.
there?
Yeah. They sent us first. Actually, I rode a marathon bus a couple of times, and they hired a marathon to it. But as it dwindled, I became the only one from Cheesequake, and so they kind of made a big deal about it. Well, so then I rode the St. Mary's bus with all the kids from St. Mary's. But it was good. I mean, I enjoyed my time there.
Did you like school?
Not really.
But she was on the honor society. So.
Yeah, I was secretary of the honor society. I still made it. Somebody said, "Well, what? Why?" I said, "Because I wanted to get out of there fast. I wasn't going to do anything. You have to repeat a grade." And I thought it was good. But I took the college prep course. My parents couldn't afford to send me to college, so I went to secretarial school and became a secretary in an auto body shop.
It's a nice profession.
Finish the story that I told you. You were kind of shocked when I told you the cop hit me, and you were very shocked about that. But I respected that officer.
In those days,
For the rest
kids
of-
got hit more than now.
For the rest of my life, I respected him. When I turned, I think I was 18, he was the first one to take me to my first race, Indy race. And I respected him so much.
Wow.
He was a good man. Took a fat lip and a black eye, but it was good. I learned my
That's
lesson.
police brutality now.
Yeah, I told my granddaughter and her boyfriend that story, and they were like, "Oh my God, I can't." I said, "Sorry, that's the way it was in the
That's
days."
the way it was. Things were
the way it
different
was.
then. You had to switch. you
Even
know.
in Old Bridge, even in Old Bridge, the cops were. I respected the cops very much. So they were very, very good to me. I got to say that.
Now, we have members here, Don and Pat Shuck,
Yeah, I know
and they
that.
said they bought their farm on Higgins Road. It was a dirt road.
Yes.
What were the roads back then? What
Well,
was
Schulmeister was dirt. Old Mill was dirt. The one right by us, by Wayne's house, that was dirt. They were all.
Joe Jackson's, Jake Brown Road.
Jake
right?
Brown, I couldn't think of the name of it.
And that Joe Jackson lived on that. We used to call him Popeye because he looked like little Popeye.
He looked just like Popeye the Sailor.
And yeah, he lived on that road, but Route 9 was dirt for quite a while.
Oh, I'll tell you a fun story. My Uncle Milt had a motorcycle that wouldn't go. This was before I was born out, so I always heard the story. My mother had a Model A or Model T, I forget which on that. He said, "Elsie, you gotta help me, get going. Here, tow me down Route 9. Her and a Model T towing him on a motorcycle. Well, they both made it, so I guess it didn't align too disastrous then. But it was interesting times around here.
Very much.
But Route 9 was dirt road, you say?
Not when we were around, but it was long before we were there.
But it was a 2-lane when you were
Yes,
around.
yeah, it was 2-lane, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because now my grandmother's house, when Brunetti bought their farm, he gave them on the other side, next to where the Sunoco was, or it is now. And they were up on a hill with a flat part down below. Well, that was great. We'd have parties, we'd all park on that. Well, then they decided, widen Route 9, we all had no place to park. And that was quite interesting about that. Yeah.
What you do when it rained with the dirt roads?
You drove from.
Just rode through them, try to avoid the puddles and things like that. But, yeah.
In 1960, I think, in 64, I remember the last time they oiled
Yes.
Spring Hill Road, they would put oil and stone down.
Yeah.
Oil, I'm talking about engine oil, crude oil, on the roads, and you drive through it and your car was a mess, your truck was a mess, whatever you drove. After that, then asphalt came, and they were like, wow, asphalt, we got an asphalt road now, I'm like, yeah, well, we had asphalt roads in Woodbridge.
Yeah, you thought we were a bunch of bumpkins. But we used to be able to ride our bike. The Spring Hill Road was so empty.
Used to play badminton out there.
Yes, we played badminton. And they back and forth. Oh, I think there's a car coming. Why? Let's go to the side. And the same with the bikes. We would ride. I mean, there was nothing really much to do in those days when I was.
What did you do for fun?
Rode our bikes up and down Spring Hill Road. And it was a big event. We'd go up Cottrell a couple of times too. And then if somebody needed something from the store, we'd go up where the barbershop, I don't even think it's a barbershop anymore, right there across from Cheese Play School. It was a little store, and that was great. We'd go up there, they had ice cream, and Good Farrington, the fellow we were talking about, if he was in the store, hey, ice cream for all of them, I'm paying. He was a great guy.
Wow.
He was awesome. He was. I met his mother, and his mother used to get eggs for us, and her hands were crippled up, and she used to take the eggs out each one, clean it.
Such bad arthritis.
She was a wonderful woman.
I think she was, 102 when she died?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's,
Now, you two met in 64, I believe you said.
No, we're 64, yeah, that's right.
That's when I moved
Now,
in.
so you got married when, and what was...
66.
Okay, where'd you go on dates? I'm curious.
Drive-in movie in Birthday and Boy. Stock car races down in Wall Stadium.
This is a story. This is a good one too. I said to her one day, I says, "Come on, I'm taking you out to dinner tonight." She says to me, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, we're going out to dinner." I said, "Okay." We just started really dating a little bit and going.
You may not make it home
places.
after you tell the story.
And I said to her, I says, "I'm taking you to the Golden Arch." So she goes and she curls her hair. She had long hair. She curls it all up. She put a nice suit dress on.
No, the blue suit.
Blue suit, and I mean, she's gorgeous. She looked gorgeous, and I said, "Oh shit," So she jumps in the truck, and I pull into a McDonald's.
I could have killed him.
I would have killed him. She didn't even know what a McDonald's.
Well, they were just
the Golden Arch. They just started.
Didn't have them around Cheese Plate then.
There was only one around in quite a few there. You go every street, there's one's on it. But that was funny. She still talks about that.
Yeah.
So when you got married, which house did you live in, or did you buy your own?
We lived in Madison Gardens for a couple of years.
Okay.
We stayed 3 days at my mother-in-law's house, and I said, "This ain't gonna work."
No, it's too crowded.
So we went up, and we got an apartment up there.
Which is funny, we paid $99 a month. Our granddaughter went to rent the same apartment, well, not the exact same one, she tried, but in Madison Gardens, $1,200 a month. That's, well, but don't forget, it's 50-some years, it's gonna change. But that was nice, and then we had our first kid there when we lived in the apartments.
We got married up at the old church on Spring Hill Road.
Yeah, no, Cottrell.
Cottrell Road, I'm sorry, I'm thinking Spring Hill. So I was racing stock cars, and I had this stock car in the garage, and I was working on it, something. She calls me on the phone. She says to me, "The church has just got the lights on now. Are you ready?" I said, "Ready for what?"
I could kill him.
She says, "We're getting married."
You could see Our Savior's Church from my bedroom window.
So I said, "Okay." So she knew what I was like before.
I knew exactly what I was getting into. But yeah, you could see Our Savior's Church from my bedroom window, and I could see that the lights were on. I did tell him that the lights were on in the church. Get ready.
Oh my God, yes. And my father-in-law, he thought it was great. I mean, he had all kinds of rifles and pistols, and he says to me, "Watch this, Joe." So he puts his gun up, and I hear, pow, the gun goes off, and all of a sudden I hear, bing, the church bell.
The bell in the church.
Wow.
I was like, oh boy.
So you see, my father was slightly crazy, so I just automatically married someone else slightly crazy.
But we had a lot of good times.
That was so rural then. Nobody really noticed.
There wasn't houses around.
Do you miss it? I mean,
I do. Yeah, I miss it.
Right now, I'm just so...
What change really got to you?
It's too much traffic on our little dirt road. Like I said, you could lie down and take a nap in all that road back then. And, like I said, we rode our bikes all day as kids. It was just...
Tell them about your dad talking to the mayor, Walter.
Oh, yeah. The picture there of Silky, she married Walter German. And with our first or second marriage, I don't know, but anyhow, in his little house, it's gone now on Cottrell Road. He's talking to my father, and he says, "I don't know what to do." He says, "They want to put a development in off of Ernston Road." It was still in Old Bridge. So my father, and of course, this is funny because they called him Baldy. He was Baldy, they called him Baldy. So anyhow, he said, "Baldy, I don't know what to tell you. you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. He said, if you give them the permits, it's gonna escalate. He says, you're gonna turn into a city around here, which, he said, if you don't, you're gonna have a lawsuit. So they built Madison Park. And then we see what has progressed from Madison Park. Yeah, but that was it. My father said at his kitchen table, he said to him, you probably gotta give it to him. So,
I think that was built in the early 50s, Madison Park, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, I think it was, I'm trying to remember. I know I was there because I would say I was about 10, I think. I'm 75 now, so probably in the 50s, yeah, you're right.
Then where Madison Garden was, that was a peach farm.
Yeah, that were Madison Gardens, where we lived. That was,
When was that though? In the 50s, 40s?
yeah, that was the 50s too. That was
Wow.
a fellow.
Yeah, 58.
He came from Italy, Di Gregorio. And he had built things so he could have this cover crops and stuff like that. And yeah, he had a lot of fruit trees and stuff. So that's gone. And it's just.
Everything's changed, I mean.
Oh, yeah, it's nothing at all.
And I feel a lot of your people from New York City are coming here in Staten Island. A lot of Staten Island people.
They like it, but then.
I worked in Staten Island for a long time, and they always bring the city with them, and then they want everything to change.
Right, yeah.
They
I
want
moved into the country.
I moved into the country. Now I need a pharmacy over here. I need a store closer. I can't get to the stores, you know.
Yeah, like I said, Spring Hill Road, we played badminton out there. Now, and my ex-daughter-in-law, we're at a wedding bridal shower. And these two girls are at our table, and oh, I love the cut-through. Well, my ex-daughter-in-law, that's not a cut-through, that's my road, and I live on that road, and you're just disrupting my life. I said, Dad, don't do
Then you
that.
said you had one child in Madison Gardens.
Yes.
How many children do you have?
Two
boys.
And we had our other boy down when we lived in
And
Howard.
grandchildren?
We had a granddaughter who is 22, and two little boys, one from each son, 11 and 9?
No, 11 and 10.
11 and 10, okay. Whoops, I missed the birthday.
Trevor.
And where do your sons live?
Right now, they lived in my mother-in-law's house next door for a while.
And then when the divorce happened.
Divorce happened, the house was sold. He moved to Mahwah. He's up in Mahwah, and my other boy lives in Marlboro.
Yeah.
Not far.
When you bought the house in Spring Hill, whose house was it? Just a different house, or?
Yeah, it was, they were named Taransky's.
Yeah.
They were the only ones. They were the ones that built the house.
They built the house with their father-in-law and father. They built the house there. And that was in between Schumeister's and my wife's, the Seegers and the Vans. But we were all related down the street. She always said we have the 5 families of Cheesequick.
Yeah, not the families of Bronx or Brooklyn, but yeah. Well, that was the other running joke. Don't say anything bad about anybody. They're
Yeah,
probably
she
related
told
to
me.
somebody else.
She told me
I
that.
told him that, and when he moved in, I said, do not criticize anyone.
Don't say nothing bad about anybody. Always say good. That's okay.
Now, I know Guy Smolgen over on Spring Hill. I don't know if you know him.
Who's that?
Guy Smolgen and his wife, Kagan.
No.
They're in Spring Hill. I don't know exactly what address.
Oh, they might be up over the hill.
On Koenig's. Maybe in Koenig's house.
I don't know.
Now, what happened to your folks' house? I assumed it was just sold?
The one in Woodbridge?
No. The one, your folks' house on Spring
Well,
Hill.
my son lived in there, and then when he lost it because of his ex-wife, now there's there's a Polish family living in it, and they are such fun.
They're good people.
Now, what about the house you lived in, Spring Hill?
That's ours now.
We're living in it now.
Okay, gotcha.
Living in it
Yeah,
now.
he didn't go far.
No, I didn't. Like I said, once you've met, you married a girl next door, you got to stay around her.
Apparently, you had a great marriage.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had a lot
It's
of
ups and
rough
downs.
years. A lot of rough years.
If there's no ups and downs, it's not really going on.
That's typical marriage.
My mother had heart problems, and I had to spend a lot of time with her. And then, of course, she passed away when she was 53 years old, which is very young.
Wow.
And but I loved her so much. And my father, he tried to pay off the hospital bill. She got the surgery in 68, 69, and we had to go out to
Had to be 68 because she never met our kids.
in Philadelphia, and we took her to Philadelphia for open heart surgery, and she went through it fine, not a problem. But then she broke her hip probably a year later, she was doing great. She walked all the way up into the old farm for Good Farrington to bring him a pot of stew, and she was doing great, and she fell and broke her hip. And my father couldn't afford to pay the bill because his insurance policy was written in 1936 or 37, and he never upgraded it for open heart surgery or exploratory surgery or whatever. So when my mother came out of surgery, they had a bill put right on her chest for $88,000. And of course, $88,000. So he wound up selling everything he owned, his business. He sold the business.
He had a lot of woodworking equipment.
We tried to help as much as we could, but there's so much you can do. And then he wound up almost losing the house. And then, so I was working up in Yonkers, New York for a big contract with Tippett's Water and Waste, and I was doing very well. And I came back and I bailed the house out. I paid the bills, took care of the house. My wife, she was behind me 100% with that to stay. She said, we can't let the house go. Your father needs someplace to live. So that's, and I sold all my race cars and stuff to keep the house and, keep things going, a lot of my equipment and just up,
We still have race cars.
Yeah,
We have a Formula Ford.
Yeah.
Cute little car. It's like a miniature Indy car.
Indy car.
And the friend that owned it, he offers him, go ahead, take a ride in it. And this is at a road course, curvy thing. And I'm looking, and I see, I said to the kid, I says, please tell me that's not your father going by. And he says, Mom, I'd like to make you happy, but that's Pop. It's a cute little car. The guy willed it to him.
Do 175 miles an hour in Pocono Speedway. That's a thrill.
But we
I loved it.
We camped out in a Scotty camper. Have you ever seen a Scotty camper?
I don't know what that is.
They're a funky little old-fashioned camper. It looks like something out of a road trip or something like that. But we camped out in this. So, funny story. He parks. He says, this is good. We're close to Earth. This big motorhome comes in. He goes over and says, you can't park there. I'm saying that for my friend. Who looks out of the motorhome but Paul Newman? He's Joanne, we can't park here.
Where was this now?
It's at Summit Point, Virginia.
Summit Point, Virginia.
Oh,
we traveled all over.
I said, you bum. I said, we could have Paul Newman camping next to us.
But he was behind us.
Yeah, so he was close by. And I was much better looking then. And I'm lounging in my shorts and my t-shirt. And my kids are playing. I see Newman talk to his guy and points over to us. I said, oh boy, did we cause trouble. He sent the guy over to take pictures of me and my kids. He wanted to have pictures of everything at the race. Greatest guy in the world. I mean, if you tried to bug him for an autograph, no, he was at his races. You treated him just like everybody else. Matter of fact, he called himself P.L. Newman. He only used his initials.
He was an owner too.
Yes, he owned everything. And he got a couple other people into racing, other actors and stuff. And they brought them down, and it was fun.
Not a snob. Joanne Woodworth was she was a wonderful person.
She was wonderful, yeah. She was very sweet.
We were sitting me and Paul Newman were sitting on the old pole that was sitting there, and I was sitting there. I said, I gotta go to the bathroom. He says, me too, I'm racing you to that. So we were both racing to the potty. So he won, I let him go first.
Oh,
and Joanne Woodward comes out. Woodward. She says to Paul, she says, do you want me to hold anything? He says, Joanne, stop. She said, I meant a flashlight. They're so
They were so down
to earth people.
Nice people. And no
cooking hamburgers. They were very good to my son. He was handing out posters and stuff like that. And and then when he gave the thumbs up to my son when the son was waving to him, everybody's like going over to the kid. How do you know him? How do you know him?
My kid was 5 years old. Nice man, that's all. Yeah, but we had a lot of fun doing the racing. That was...
Now, wait, you said you raced how many miles an hour?
Well, it was 174 when I was born.
What's that like?
It's a thrill. It's a thrill.
He's an adrenaline.
You go up to the wall, and actually the car if it's handling right, he'll bring you right into the turn, and you just stay with the throttle and just walk it into the turn, and it's
Great for his adrenaline, not too good for my blood pressure.
Then I ran dirt cars. I ran dirt cars down at East Windsor Speedway, Flemington. Like I said, I never went to asphalt. I never could.
Yeah. Well, Old Bridge had cones when you got
And I assume you went to the racetrack in Old Bridge?
to watch. I did a couple, once or twice, but you could hear it from our house at that time. You know, there was no houses, other houses, no traffic, and my father, I heard a crash.
Tell them what the boys used to do to go to the track. They drive there.
They drive there. The Hauser boys, not houses that had the farm. Hauser was the other ones that had. The one worked at Julian's Auto Body and a couple others. They drive through the woods, and if they got a little bit of trouble, they'd drive through the woods back. Yeah, it was interesting back then.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
But you could hear it from our house then because there was the trees were lower and things like that. And like I said, my father, there was a big one there.
A lot to do with when I worked for Joe Giuliani. He told me the story that's why he got into the towing business and stuff like that. When he drove his race car to the track, he would race the car. They take the glass out, the windows, they tape up the windows or the headlights or take them right out, and he'd race the car. Well, on the way home, he actually won the race and he got $25 for winning the race. So on the way home, the car lost the wheel. The wheel broke on the right front because that was a little strain is putting it into the turn. The bearing went out of it, and he had to call a wrecker to get it towed, and it cost him $65 to get the car towed. So the $25 plus extra, so he decided he was going into the towing business to make money. And that's when he started Julian's Auto Body. That was an interesting
place to work. We both said the same thing.
Oh, that was someplace still I worked. Good, I learned a lot. I learned a lot there. I learned...
I never had a name there, the girl.
The girl.
Don't forget, I was only 22 years old. Yeah.
Well, she never had a name in Old Bridge.
That's true.
She always was called...
Milton's niece, Elsie's daughter. My father, they call him Sigger. Of course, they didn't call him Warne.
Right.
Sigger's daughter.
Yeah.
What were your folks' first names?
What's that?
Your folks' first...
Mine was Elsie and Arnold.
Okay.
And mine was Margaret and Bill.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm curious, what did you drive here today in?
1934 Ford that I built from scratch. Every part of it is built.
Amazing.
Actually, my son and I, we went out I was looking for some sort of a trunk or something to put
Oh yeah, you should go look at the trunk.
in the back of the truck. And I was like, I gotta find something, Pete. So Pete, my youngest boy, we were in Carlisle, we had a ball. It's a good trip, but it's worth the whole trip. And I'm riding, going through the sale, and he spotted this box. He said, "Hey, Dad, take a look at this box." So I said, "Okay." So I turn around, I go back, I'm looking at the box. It's 1876.
It's a strong box.
Strong box.
Stage, I think. Yeah.
From a stagecoach.
It's about, I don't know.
It's in the back of the truck.
Yeah, if you want to go take a look at it. Wow.
But I restored it, just cleaned it up and painted it, varnished it and painted it and stuff like that. And the thing's awesome looking. But everybody said, "Where did you get that?" I said, "Down at the auction, down at Carlisle, Pennsylvania." A lot of interesting stuff down there.
Him varnishing it so many times made me think back to my father's Chris Craft boat. He had a varnished Chris Craft speedboat.
Wood boat.
Yeah, wooden boat. Every so often, I think probably every year or two, stripped it down and put new varnish on it because obviously going to the boat. He says, "The heck with this, I can't do this anymore, I'm painting it." Paint, strips off the varnish, puts a coat of white paint on it, steps back and goes, "Oh my God, I made a big mistake." Goes and strips all the white paint off and sands it down and puts the varnish back on. But he used to launch that down at Cheesecake Creek. By the Pine Tavern, you went down that road all the way down, and he launched the boat there.
That was called Dock Road at one time?
Dock Road, yeah.
Steamboat Landing?
Yeah, now it's Steamboat Landing. I like Dock Road. But,
Yes.
yeah, and he would tow it down there. And he and my Uncle Mill, they would get in the front, put the crab things in, and my mother and I sat in the back. And I had a doll, a favorite doll, and I took it everywhere, and I drag it in the water. And my mother says, "That doll is Waterlock." I said, "Well, that's her name then, Waterlock. We're doing Waterlock." But we had good times doing that.
Tell them about the liquor.
Oh, I think they probably know about that. The rum runners used to come up Cheesecake Creek?
Yes. That was a
They
big,
say-
that was a big port to send produce to New York. And
Yeah, the Keyboard still has part of the dock for the part. No, right up Cheesecake Creek, into Dock Road, and some of my mother's cousins had a house on that road,
Wow.
and they were hiding out, the rum runners were. They went into that house and told the people, we're staying here for a week. This is what I heard from my mother, so and that's what she knew from her cousins. And they said, you can come and go, but if we see one thing that looks out of place, somebody in this house dies. That was interesting. When my mother told me about that, they kept them there. The little house is still there, but, you know. But yeah, they come run up there, and then the one day, the one rum runner said to the other one, my boat's faster than yours. So they held a boat race. It's just got together and they held a boat race, and people knew about it and come and watch it. Oh yeah, Keyport, the dock, the produce ferry used to come in there, and that's where my great grandfather got a kick in the head from a horse.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I only heard about it from my mother. They were unloading, the horse got skittish. I guess somebody brought a car or something and it scared the horse. Well, the horse reared up, clocked him on the side of the head, and he always had like a scab there. It never really healed. They said, well, they had no care for stuff like that in those days. So, yeah, that was an interesting thing about that, too. And then the one time, the horse and wagon, something happened. They almost got pulled back into the docking area. On the ramp, and they said they had to work really hard to get the horse back. I mean, I wasn't even born yet. My mother was quite young, so this is hearsay.
Didn't they lose a set of horses down at Dock Road?
Yes, they did, the set horses.
So I assume the Wawa that wasn't there
No.
at the time, it was because the cemetery is right there.
Yeah.
Next to that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any bounds in that one.
No.
One is the Methodist and one is the Baptist. There's
Right.
two of them.
Right.
I think one of them might have, great grandpa.
Okay.
And the one down by Rural.
Right.
Yeah, great grandpa's in there. The funny thing, up until last year, somebody was putting flowers on his grave. My great grandpa, so that's pretty old.
What was his name?
Just which one was this one now?
Pretty easy.
I think it was another Clyde man. I'm not sure on that one. Yeah, that might have been Clyde.
She had like how many aunts? No, what she had, 9, 10?
My mother's mother? Yeah, it was 10. One baby died at birth.
10 children.
Yeah.
Wow.
And only one died at birth. I mean, only one was too many, but
Yeah,
and he had a
right.
simple thing that if it was in modern time, he would have been saved. You know, so that he's down there. My grandfather, my grandmother.
And which cemetery? Because there's two.
Rose Hill. They're in Rose Hill.
Oh, okay.
Down in Matwood, yeah. They're in Rose Hill. And it's a hill, and it's full of groundhogs.
They're actually up on the hill. They're on the hill.
Yeah, they're on the hill. And,
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, when my uncle died, Uncle Amos died, the funeral director and the headstone people, they said, the pallbearers, you just bring him to the end and we'll take him up the hill. We didn't want anybody falling in it.
Yeah, well, we just buried, a year and a half ago, about a year and a half ago, before the COVID started.
Yeah.
He had a lot of interesting stories he used to tell me.
Oh, God, you could have talked to him. He was
90.
90 something. But wow.
Tell me again who that was.
This was my Uncle Amos Bound. He lost his leg in World War II. Stepped on a landmine.
Yeah, shot.
Oh no, he got shot in the head first. He got shot in the head. What saved him is they put their toilet paper rolls in their helmets. But he still was shot, and they said, can you walk back to the medic? He said, yeah, I can walk. That's when he steps on the landmine.
Blew his ankle off.
Yeah. Oh, this is worse yet.
And then he says that because of the flash, it cauterized it, and he wasn't bleeding.
Well, he was good.
So, but he laid there for like 10, 15 hours. And he used up all his ammunition shooting to see if somebody would come to him, hollering, and he couldn't find him. So he finally said, he told me this story, and I was like, almost cried.
Yeah.
And he says to me, finally, somebody heard me, and they come running over and carried me out. But then he said, when they took me to the medics, they wound up cutting his leg off and cut it off up here. And I said, Amos, your ankle was blown off. He says, well, that was the only size prosthetics that they had, so they cut it to the length of the prosthetic.
Cut him to fit.
Cut him to fit the prosthetics.
Yeah. It was interesting.
Really? I said,
Yeah, helped take care of him for, what, about 2 years?
7 years, actually.
Yeah, he had an aide, but then there was times that he didn't, she wasn't there. But he learned a lot just sitting and talking to
Stories
her.
he told me, oh my God, he told me so many stories around the properties and the way people were and stuff like that.
Now, where did he live?
He was the one that lived in the house on
Route 9.
Okay.
Route 9. And with his brother and...
My grandma, he lived there too.
Grandma.
My grandma, when they sold the place across Route 9 to Brunetti gave them that piece of property and paid to have the house built there for them.
They built a house and they moved the house next to it.
Yeah, the little bungalow.
across the
Yes,
street.
that was on the hill where the sign is on Route 9 now. I think the sign's still there, or they got stuff, and they moved the little house. We went and watched it. They had up on the stilts and stuff and brought it over and everything. And it was some interesting things went on here. Oh, you and I waved to the astronauts, remember?
Yeah.
The little house on the corner, they had a big oil tank there. They were changing things, and the two schools that they named after the astronauts, they brought them here. And they said, well, they're going to go down Control Road. So he and I, we ride our bicycles down there, and we're sitting up on the oil tanks watching them go by. We wave, hi, guys.
There were still road bikes, even though we were 18, 19 years
Yeah, we like to ride our
We
bikes.
loved on our bikes.
Yeah, so.
Had a lot of good times,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of good years.
Now, when you moved here and when you were raised here, it was called Madison Township.
Yes.
They had an election, I believe, in 1975 to change the name to Old Bridge. What were your thoughts on that? And
Didn't like it.
Didn't like it at all.
Didn't like it. It wasn't nothing against Old Bridge, but it was Madison Township for a long, long time. And they even asked everybody a different opinion of what you would like it to be named. And I just said, well, I'd like to love Madison Township, but they changed it. And,
Yeah,
I didn't care for it too much.
not at all, not at all.
they're very disappointed in the vote, I assume.
Yes, yes. Well, that was all your newcomers coming in.
Yeah, they
That's what
wanted it.
really wanted to change it.
Right.
The old people really never wanted to change it. I helped restore the I think it's a 27 or 29 fire truck for Chiefs Week.
Yeah.
Firehouse. They still have it. Me and Fred Peterson worked on that and rebuilt it. His brother-in-law helped him with the mechanics of it because he knew about the Model A's and Model T's. And I painted it, and then we fixed the headlights because they were rotted out and stuff like that. And we restored it. I painted it. We had the upholstery do the seat.
They did, right?
And she got into an argument with one of the volunteers. I can't remember
The
what
volunteer's wife.
the wife. No, about arguing about the name.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Yes.
On that.
And
What was it that she said that it was independent or?
yeah, Cheese Quake Independent Fire Company, that's what it was for a long time. And this woman said, no, it's never been that. I says, well, ma'am, I've lived here a lot longer than you have, and I know what the name was. But she's also the one, when I sat on the seat that you had upholstered, pushed me off.
Yeah. That fire truck cost us a lot of money to rebuild.
And I said, no, it didn't.
Yeah, but there was a lot of interesting people that I met moving here.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, it was very good people. I mean, good people.
Back to the fire company, I think it was Fred Peterson or Britt Schulmeister told me that when they got this fire truck out of an old barn, the people wanted to do the controlled burn of the barn. They realized too late that there was the old horse-drawn or walking one.
The walk one, or
The one that you walk on.
firemen would run with it.
Yeah,
The hose
and they
on.
burned it up. They never even looked. Somebody should have looked.
Yeah, they wanted to burn the barn down.
Yeah, it was that you pay.
They were going to use it as what do you call it, like a training sense to set it on fire and then put the fire out.
Right, yeah, it was a controlled burn, yeah.
Controlled burn.
But, then they realized afterwards that I said, somebody should have looked,
So there's so much stuff that's lost.
Yeah.
Actually, I was in the back and I found a military, it's a little brass button, I should have brought it for you. And it has a big M on it. I believe it's military. I'm not sure if it is or not.
Well, we can stop it sometime and
Yeah.
drop it off.
It
They'll
looks-
know if it's good, if it's
Yeah.
really antique or not.
My grandson, he's into the old stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He's really interested in it. I think he mentioned that he was related to the Bounds, and I guess one teacher knew about the Bounds. And so, oh my God,
Well, he goes in
Descendant.
East Brunswick School,
East
and East Brunswick, there's a lot of bounds there.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think there's a bound school.
Yeah.
He's so military. These collectibles places, I'm getting him models
The
this
tanks.
big of tanks and military vehicles, and he
He loves
loves them. He doesn't know about the other ones yet. He only knows about the one he got in the summer.
Now, the Cheesecake School one time was called, I believe, White and Brown.
White and Brown,
It was
yeah.
Mary Brown's son, I believe.
Mary
who was
Brown's
killed
son,
in
yes,
the war.
Bub. Bub got killed in the war, and he was buried in, I can't remember where, I think it was near Flanders Field or one of those important, he was buried there. But when the war was over, she had him disinterred and brought back here. And it was funny, not really funny, but my son was looking to buy her house after she passed away. And they were there with the real estate lady, and she looks and she says, now that window looks, and my son Pete goes, like that's where you would put a casket, and that's where his casket had been when he came back. And I was a little kid, and I was scared to go in. I said, I got Bub in the casket, call him Bub. Yeah. And yeah, his name was White and Brown, and they named the school after him.
But like I said, it was very interesting. I don't know if you knew about the Fenwicks. They were here for a long time.
Yeah, Fenwicks, they
When
were.
I don't know how long before that they were here.
Yeah, but they-
And in the 60s, I met Bud Fenwick, and I met
They had the construction place down on 34th there.
Everett,
Everett,
and
Well, actually, that now you brought me up another thing.
There she
where,
goes.
where the Sunoco is, where 34 divides
Yes.
up there. Mary Brown and her husband, and they had a little gas station there. And that was the hangout of the young guys. And as a little kid, I was fascinated with all these guys in the blue jeans and their hot cars. And I had to marry. It was fascinating because I could look out my bedroom window and they'd be banging the cars around and moving them all around. Yeah, she had a little gas station there. It was brick, similar to the big garage. And there's always something going on there. Matter of fact, there was an airplane in that garage for a while.
Well, she was a pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Bud Fenwick, he was the mechanic. He worked on a lot of airplanes. When I worked for Furco and Sons, Furco, he was a contractor here. I used to go in there to see Bud working on a plane inside, and I come in, he seen I had a lot of interest in working on the planes and stuff like that, and he says to me, you come here, he said, I'll teach you how to work on them, and mechanics. And I said, well, I got a wife and family. I said, I can't really spend a lot of time, and I run a race car. And I said, it takes a lot of my time up.
Now, he had that little airport down on 79. Now, Pete told me that even though it's closed, it's still on a list as an emergency landing.
Where on 79?
I'm trying to think exactly where it's at. They call it the Preston area.
Preston Airport.
Was that the other side of 34 or this side?
The other side, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost into Marlboro. I think.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and if you go down 79, you can see it. It's kind of grown up, but if you look to the right, going south.
My son still takes his remote control cars, and he go down there
Yeah.
with the guy from the hobby shop. He got permission to go out there with the remote
Yeah.
control cars and run them over.
But it's called the Preston area because my father found out that with the big airplanes, the commercial airplanes, they list that as a reference point. Go to the Preston area, but there's a tower line there now, and a fellow we knew, he got caught in the tower line and got killed.
Well, he ran out of fuel.
Yeah, he ran out of fuel, but then got in the tower line and got killed, so.
We were down at some point, and his girlfriend was there, and she's sitting up on a tractor trying to read a book, and I went and got a little lantern I had, and I put it on the steering wheel of it, and she was like, oh, happy about that. We had a lot of good fun down there.
Yeah.
When was that? What year?
Oh, God, I would say, our kids were not that old, so probably
80s.
80, it was in the 80s. Yeah, I would say it was in the 80s. Some of these things run together because we did something so often and went to so many different places that it was, it was interesting.
We raced Formula Ford, Formula Atlantic, and we went to Mid-Ohio, we went to Virginia, we went to Watkins Glen, we went to Poconos, all the Northeast tracks.
Watkins Glen was a famous race.
Oh, yeah, it's a race. It is a famous racetrack, yeah. And it's, it was enjoyable, Now we look back at it and we say, how many people in our lifetime would do what we've done?
Right, yeah.
But you drove to all these places.
Yes.
Right.
Not getting me in an airplane.
Really?
Now,
Oh, if God wanted me to fly, you would have given me wings.
that's what I'm gonna take her up for our 55 years of being married. I'm gonna take her up to the balloon place and take her up in a balloon. She's she's like screaming at me. Oh, I ain't going up there.
I did fly.
Parachute, but he did.
No. I did fly with him. I couldn't turn it down. For our 1 anniversary, he took me to Puerto Rico. And left me, because I love the beach. And he took me to Puerto Rico, and I said, just leave me here, I'm fine.
Now, you went to the beach and went around here at Lawrence Harbor, I assume, sometimes.
Sometimes, once in a while. A lot of times we went down further, down to Union Beach, you know.
Cheesecake Park we went to.
Yeah, we went to Cheesecake Park a lot. And,
that was nice because you could have a picnic and do your things there now. But yeah, we, like I said.
we used to go canoeing too down in Lake Lefferts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We tried almost everything.
Yeah.
Except flying, I'm not doing that. No.
We had a good
What's
time.
the secret of being together for 55 years?
Well, she beats me a lot.
Okay.
I cook him everything he likes to eat.
You realize it's being on tape.
That's all right. That's all right. So if I wind up dead, you know what happened.
No.
No, she's.
Whatever he wants to eat, I'll cook it.
I can tell you when I moved into Old Bridge, before the gun incident, seeing her with the gun, I was playing in a band and I had these groupies around. I was playing a guitar and you know, I wasn't good, but I was enough to play the guitar. And I came to Old Bridge and I saw her and I said, I'm gonna wind up marrying that girl. Just like,
Geez, I look like I was that lonely that I married the first guy to come
you
home.
know, and she said to me, really? I said, I'm telling you, I said, I'm going to marry that girl. Because I seen she was very, she liked animals, same as I. I trained dogs for the military. And
I had pet ducks when he moved.
And she had ducks, and she had a cat, and, you know, she was into animals, and she loved animals. After we got to know each other, it was more so. I says, wow, this is going to be
And I showed you how to find the racetrack.
and show me how to find it. We used to load up the pigeons and take them down to Bordentown and down South Jersey and stuff like that.
Train them.
To train them to come home. And she got interested in it, and she used to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I had the birds packed up. And
I don't get up early much.
And she wasn't an early bird, but she got up and we'd drive down there, and then we'd come home, and I said, they're going to beat us home today. No, they ain't going to beat you home today.
Yeah, they did. They're amazing.
No,
They just-
how do you train a pigeon?
You start them young, of course. You let them out in your pen, in your yard. They stay in like a training crate, and it's like a big screened-in area, so they can look at the environment and stuff like that. And then you all of a sudden you let them out and take the cage away, and they come out and they start to flutter around and they start to fly. And then you take them like 2 or 3 miles away from the house and you release
Just
them.
further and further all the time.
And as you go further and further away, my father did very well with the race birds in New York City. He raced, he started when he was probably 15, 16 years old, and he didn't work for 5 years.
Yes, they bet
They
big
bet
money
on
on
birds, big time.
They needed a secretary at one thing. Oh my gosh. I said, they're trusting me with this much money?
Unbelievable how much money he won, and he did very, very well. I used to call him Shoebox Willie, because he'd come with one bird, and everybody else was bringing 15, 10 birds in. But when you put more birds in, you have to bet on each bird.
Yeah.
So you bet like $25 or $15 or $10 on each bird that bird's going to come in first. My father would walk in with one bird and he'd put $500 to $1,000 on this one bird.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And he would win.
Wow.
He told me to go get money out of the drawer at our house, and when we lived in New York, and he had a drawer about this big, about that deep, wide inside, and about that high. You couldn't get it open, it was filled with money.
Oh, boy.
That's how much money he won.
For 5 years, you said?
5 years he never worked. He shut the cabinet shop down, and he did very well with the birds. He used to sell off bird, for mating and stuff like that for stud, and he'd get that close to $1,000 for
Yeah,
one
it's
picture.
amazing. To me, a bird?
And he had I should have dug it out. He has from the military where he donated 500 birds to the military for messengers.
Oh, I remember that.
Message
Yeah,
birds.
the bird was called Cher-ami,
Jeremy.
my dear friend. And it's a picture of a poem for this bird. I guess she did something in the war or something.
She saved the whole convoy or something.
But going with training the birds is how we found out about the racetrack down in East Windsor. Because there's a gas station, the guy had it all polished, ready to go to the races. So we said, oh, we have to go one night. Well, we didn't go that night. The next day we go down, the car is wrecked.
Just totally.
So, but then we decided we were going to go, and then that's how he got hooked. He's all, I'm going to build one of these. I have to race.
And I was really into the pigeons too. And that, like I said, I did train dogs for military and the police, and I had a good time with them. I mean, the birds, I never handled my pigeons. I would just open the crate up and tap on the top of it, and they'd all jump in the crate, and close it up, go to the next crate, and they'd all jump in, close it up.
It's amazing to me, training pigeons.
But she learned a lot from them.
I saw it. I did see them. They're very smart creatures, and unlike my dogs.
But a lot of it in training of an animal is repetition. You have to stay on top of it. I had this one bird, Buttons. I used to call him Buttons, and all I had to say is Buttons. He'd fly up on my shoulder, and it was amazing. And then when I was younger, I used to ride the bike, and I had 2 pigeons on the front handlebars holding on while I was riding my bike. And the guy says, you can't race the birds like that because they have to come to the pigeon coop. They can't land,
just wherever you happen to be.
because they got that little band on them. You have to get the band off and stuff like that. And all I have to do is whistle, and they come down and land on them.
Amazing. Let me ask, where did you learn how to shoot?
My father.
Father was a gunsmith.
Yeah.
True.
He built her a gun. It's probably this long. It's a single shot. You take it, you put the hammer down, pull the lever back, put the shell in, close it up, and then fire it. One shot at a time. He built it. It's probably this long stock. She was like 5 years old. She learned how to shoot.
He was.
She's good.
Master gunsmith. I mean, if you didn't mind, because our heater was one of those ones where it was the blower coming up the floor, and my mother said, "Well, okay, I don't want a dryer. I'll just hang clothes here." Well, Pop looks at the wire, clothesline. Gun stops hanging from it. But he would sit there and oil rubbed him over and over and over again. They were beautiful. I mean, people came from quite a distance to have him do a gun for them. And he had the bluing tanks, which is a controlled rust. That he did on her kitchen stove and then dumped the residue down her brand new porcelain sink. Ate right through the porcelain.
You got hell for that.
She was about ready to throw him out. But it was interesting. Every hunting season, all the hunters would be coming in, Singer, you gotta do my gun, you gotta do my gun. And he set everything up. He was very good
Joey
at that.
Jackson used to come over. He had hound dogs.
He
He had
burr,
the
that's what
hounds
he
in the
did.
back, and he'd walk up and, hey, Singer, you gotta do my gun up.
Yeah, like I said, his baying hounds was in the vacant lot where our house sits now. And you'd hear them.
You told.
Apparently raccoon hunting, you gotta do it at night.
Yeah, you see the lanterns. They never had spotlights or nothing. They had lanterns that they went out hunting with. Unbelievable.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No.
I think we bored you enough.
No.
And we've also proved that we're slightly crazy.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for coming and
No
putting up
problem.
with us. So.
No, that's fine.
I enjoyed it.
Actually, I'm gonna dig up some of the other stuff. I got a couple of arrowheads, I think. That
Yeah, I have a
probably
couple things I want to
found that
donate.
box.
See if you want to have them.
But rather than just have them say, I like to see other people appreciate them,
Yes.
That's good. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was going to donate a potbelly stove, but my kid took it.